We're back. News continues to break in the Murdoch hacking scandal in Britain. A former top Murdoch aide, Rebecca Brooks, was arrested yesterday. The top two men at Scotland Yard have resigned over questionable relationships to a former News of the World reporter. And a whistleblower in this case has turned up dead. NBC News' Stephanie Gosk is covering this story for us in London, and Michael Wolff is author of The Man Who Owns the News, Inside the Secret World of Rupert Murdoch. Let's go right now to the tangled web that may be the best way to describe this hacking scandal. As the parties involved, Murdoch's empire, government, and the police all have ties one to another. It begins with Rupert Murdoch, the chief of News Corporation, which includes the British company News International. His son James handles European operations for News Corp. On Friday, Les Hinton resigned. He ran Murdoch's Dow Jones and published the Wall Street Journal. He previously ran News International. Rebecca Brooks worked for Les Hinton, ran the tabloid News of the World, and went on to run News International. She quit and was arrested yesterday. Brooks's deputy at News of the World was Andy Coulson, who ran the paper when much of the hacking went on. He resigned and became top communications aide for David Cameron, who became Prime Minister. Coulson later resigned from the Prime Minister's office over the hacking scandal. The Prime Minister happens to be also friends with Rebecca Brooks and James Murdoch. Under Coulson at the paper, though, was a Royals reporter named Clive Goodman, who hired a private investigator named Glenn Mulcair to hack the phones of aides to the royal family. Scotland Yard ran the investigation into the hacking and arrested Goodman, Mulcair, Coulson, and Brooks. Paul Stevenson, the top man at Scotland Yard, resigned yesterday, in part because he hired Neil Wallace as a PR consultant. Wallace used to work at News of the World. John Yates, the number 2 at Scotland Yard, stepped down yesterday because he refused to reopen the hacking scandal investigation a few years ago. He also has ties to Neil Wallace. Stephanie Gosk, we've tried to put that together as best we can. Give us more color on this tangled web in Britain.
Yeah, Chris, it's not easy, and people are going to look at that and go, huh? It is very confusing. This has been a mind-bending story, and that's because News Corp and its influence in this country is widespread, and we're now seeing that. This has been an unbelievable 36 hours where you have the top 2 men in charge of Scotland Yard resigning, Rebecca Brooks, one of Murdoch's most trusted executives, getting arrested, and now this strange news of this journalist who has shown up dead. And what you are seeing right now is the effect of this web on various facets of society here in this country, including the police force and Parliament and the government. David Cameron coming under increasingly intense rebuke for his relationships with News Corp as well. Chris?
Michael Wolff, bring it on home. When you look at this story and as you cover it and develop it, what do you make of this thing? Andy Coulson, the whole thing, he apparently had a role here. Tell us what you know about all of this, how it relates to up-to-date here in America.
Well, it's just extraordinary. I mean, that's what when everyone who's involved with this talks about it, they just shake their heads. And it's not just 36 hours. It's literally 2 weeks of the most incredible developments. Every one of these, each one of these developments would be in a normal time headline making for months on end. But there's new developments every day.
Okay, let's get to the question of the Prime Minister. Why did the Prime Minister hire Andy Coulson? Was it at the advice of Rebecca Brooks? Did he do it to keep cool and make friends with Rupert?
I'm going to tell you exactly why he did it. And I was involved with, I mean, they talk about this openly. I've spent time with all of these people, including the Prime Minister. Rupert Murdoch did not like David Cameron. I've spent lots of time with Murdoch mumbling about Cameron, what a slickster he is. He liked Gordon Brown. Rebecca Brooks, however, likes David Cameron, and she set out to convince Rupert that he ought to go with Cameron. And one of the things here, one of the chits, one of the trades, was she went to Cameron and said, you hire our guy, Andy Coulson. If you do that, I can help bring Rupert around. And she succeeded.
And he hired the Prime Minister, the candidate for Prime Minister, hired Coulson, and then ended up getting what? The respect or the obeisance or what? How would you describe how Rupert responded to that deal?
Well, actually, Rupert responded grudgingly. He still doesn't like David Cameron. He actually liked Gordon Brown. but he felt that if Rebecca and his son James wanted this, this was their show. He was trying to be hands-off, and plus he got a man in number 10 Downing Street, and that was a victory.
Tomorrow, back to you, Stephanie. Tomorrow we have the hot case. This case is going before a parliamentary committee. You're going to have the man himself, Rupert Murdoch, his son James. You're going to have Stephanie. You're going to have what's her name? Rebecca Brooks. They're all going to be there under oath. Under oath. Will the name Jude Law come up? Will the name who else is going to come up in this case? Jude Law's been apparently involved in this.
Well, first, Chris, let me back up just a little bit. It's unclear whether they're going to be under oath in the same way that people are under oath and testimony in Congress. But you are going to hear some very pressing questions and some difficult questions. And what they have, all three of them have said, is they are going to avoid any question that jeopardizes the ongoing investigation in Scotland Yard. So they may be silent on a number of these issues.
Okay, thank you very much. This case is wide open, and it just gets bigger.